Alright, so in this lesson, we're going to start Unreal scripting the actual classes we're going to need to power our weapon.
That's right. And as you'll see, it's, I mean, you can think of different classes. Of course, we're going to be needing different classes for different parts of a weapon, because you can think of the weapon and the projectile. That's obviously two different pieces. But as you'll see very shortly here, there's actually, like, multiple classes that make up even the weapon you're holding.
Okay.
And its various forms, like on the ground or when it's in inventory in your hands.
Alright, now something kind of different has happened for this lesson. I've actually swapped places with Logan so that he can spend more of his time explaining what's going on with the scripting while I'm going to be doing just the typing. So if you notice some typos or some crazy errors while I'm going along, cut Logan some slack, because it's not really him typing. You can blast me about it later. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, what's this first class we're going to be creating?
Well, this is going to be the pickup class. This is the weapon when it's laying on the ground, waiting for someone to pick it up.
Okay, and what are we going to call this?
Let's just call it LPRiflePickup.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do 2 forward slashes, and we'll do some equal signs just to make our comments a little pretty. And let's just go ahead and name this the name of our class. So
yeah, it never hurts to throw a little documentation in your classes.
Okay, and if you wanted to, you could type some notes to yourself, or maybe write who did this, you know, whatever. But we'll comment this out, and I'll just add another line of equal signs to make that look neat. And now we're ready to actually begin coding.
Right, now we want to go ahead and actually define the class. To do that, we'll start with class, and then the class that we're creating here, which is LPRiflePickup.
Okay.
And we're going to say it extends.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to extend UT weapon pickup.
Okay, and why are we going to do that?
Because we have a weapon pickup is a general item, functionality already programmed into Unreal, if you want to look at it that way. Taking advantage of object-oriented programming, we can simply extend that so that we can expand upon that functionality, or in this case, just properties-wise.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
What it really gets down to is a weapon pickup is a fairly standard item inside of Unreal, and it's not overly complex as far as setup goes.
Okay.
Its only job is to be visible on the ground or above a X weapon base.
All right.
And then give the player a certain type of inventory when they do pick it up.
Okay. So right now, instead of having to code all of the stuff that typically comes with the pickup, we can just call back to UT weapon pickup.
Right. And as a matter of fact, right here, we're going to go right into a default properties block.
Okay. So I'll go ahead.
As pretty much all weapon pickups have the same functionality, they cause a weapon of some kind to be spawned into your inventory.
Okay.
So all we really need to do is jump into default properties and start setting up a few of these things. The first is, let's set up the draw type.
All right.
We'll do that by saying simply draw type equals DT underscore static mesh.
All right. And what is this going to do?
This is just telling Unreal how this actor is going to be drawn in the game. In this case, DT static mesh means we could use any static meshes that we want for the mesh for this object.
Now, I'm a relatively new coder here. Is capitalization going to be a factor in here?
Probably for some of the types. I mean, it varies depending on what type of property you're dealing with.
Okay.
Generally, though, like, for example, draw type by itself might not necessarily need to be capital, but what types you set it to, as that's probably an enum of various things that can be a draw type, so that probably would be more likely to be case sensitive.
Okay.
So it really depends on the type, but if you're just coding it out for the first time, I'd generally be careful. And it keeps the code a little bit cleaner, too. Across the board, always have the same values, cased the same.
Absolutely. All right, so from here, where are we going to go?
Well, now we've told Unreal that this is going to be drawn as a static mesh. Let's say what static mesh in particular we're going to be using.
Okay.
To do that, we'll simply say static mesh equals, and for which static mesh, we'll do static mesh, and then in single quotes, LPRifleStatic dot LPRifleStatic. Again, this is the mesh that was loaded in Unreal a little while ago.
Okay.
So now we've got that set up. So we know how to draw it and what to use to draw it.
Okay.
Now we need to say exactly what gun the player gets when they run over this pickup.
All right, so we've got the object on the ground as we're going to see it in the game. Now we have to determine what's going to happen when a player touches it.
That's right. Basically, all it needs to know is what kind of inventory gets spawned. In this case, what weapon. The property for that is inventory type. So inventory type equals class LP rifle.
Okay, and that'll go in single quotes?
Yep. And not sure if this would cause problems or not, or if the syntax is that picky, but generally that's, yeah, no space in there. So that's one case where it might be a little bit lax about it, but again.
Just, yeah, might as well be careful.
Now, what is this LP rifle? This is a class that we're going to be coding shortly. This is the actual inventory item or the weapon that you're holding as you're running around using the gun.
Or to be more specific, this is what you get when you pick up the pickup.
That's right.
All right, well, that makes sense. And we haven't, just to kind of reiterate, we haven't coded that just yet.
Right, and for example, you could also use things like rocket launcher or flat cannon here.
Okay.
Now, one last thing is, let's set a customized pickup message.
All right.
For the LP rifle pickup. Just because, I mean, pretty much all the weapons generally do say, you got the flat cannon or you got the rocket launcher.
Oh, so this is actually the text that will appear on the screen when we grab this pickup.
That's right.
Okay. So let's use double quotes, and what should we throw in here, what do you think?
Just say something like, you got the laser pulse rifle.
You got the laser pulse rifle. Sounds good to me. We'll put an exclamation point at the end, and we'll close our quotes.
So with that, really, that's all we need to do for the setup of the LP rifle pickup. Again, a fairly standard item where all we're doing is, well, it's saying how it draws. So use our custom mesh for a custom pickup, and then making sure it's associated with the actual LP rifle we'll be coding later.
Okay. So this is a pretty short lesson, but just, the first of a series of classes we're going to have to create to make this weapon work. Because, as we mentioned earlier, there's more than just, one or two classes when you're using a weapon inside the game. There are several classes all working in tandem so that you can see a weapon on the ground, you can pick it up, hold it in your hand, you can see somebody else using it, and so on and so on.
Exactly.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this lesson. So thanks a lot.